Hello, this is a string class pitch video about D major, okay? So you should be getting quite familiar with the drill. Hopefully I'll do a little bit less theory at the start. We'll just whiz through it and get on with some playing and put that theory onto our instruments. So the stave, as you can see here, I'm going to sort of divide that up there so that it's more obvious. All right, so we have the treble clef stave, we've got the bass clef stave, and then we have the viola clef stave, which is sort of a mixture of the two. So let's put our clefs in really sort of firstly. So treble clef stave, we count up 2 lines. So on the second line, put a dot, and then we draw a circle that goes up to the line above, down to the line below, and it looks a bit like a shell. And then we go up in the middle, oops, pen's not working, down and round. And that's like a fancy G, it's the G clef, and so that G, that second line there is like an arrow saying this is G, okay? Then our bass clef, we count down 2 lines this time, we start on the second line below, draw one side of a heart, a line either side, that's like a big arrow saying this is where F is. This dotted line is our middle C that lives exactly equal distance between the 2 staves, even though when we see it on piano music, they're a lot further away. But I've drawn them sort of to scale so that we understand the relationship between the two. And then that middle C line is the one that it becomes the centre of the alto clef or C clef. And they have a little arrow pointing to that C. So that middle line we know is C. So that's orientating ourselves in our clefs. Right, we have our major scale pattern. So we can think of it in 2 different ways. We can think of it as degrees of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the pattern is tone, tone, and I draw a little hat, a semitone, tone, 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 semitone. But some of you may find that a bit more confusing. Remember, a semitone is 2 notes on a piano right next door to each other, and a tone is 2 semitones. So semi is half. So if this is a tone, this is the semitone. But you may just remember the degrees of the scale as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And we know that mi and fa are close together, and ti and do are close together. Or we just know that 3 and 4, 7 and 8. Okay, so however you want to think about it. But I like to write out, if I'm trying to work out a scale, a major scale, from sort of first principles, I have a little system. So I write out the numbers first, then I work out what scale I'm doing. So we're doing D major. So I put D at the start and D at the end, because degree number 1 and 8, we start and end on the same note. In a scale, we go up an octave. And then I put in the letters alphabetically. I'm not worrying about sharps and flats at the moment. There just has to be one of each. Other than the first and last, there has to be one of each letter of the alphabet. So D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Okay? Now I'm going to put it onto my piano, okay, and I'm going to think about the pattern of tones and semitones. So let's start down here. It might be easier. We can see down there. So 1 is our D. 2 is going to be E, so we skip 1. 3 is going to be something to do with F, but we have to skip 1, so we land here on a black note. So we know that this black note, it has 2 names. One is F sharp and one is G flat. But in this scale, because we've landed on it at number 3, where there was already an F, we know that we're going to give it that F sharp name. Okay, so that's how we decide whether it's an F sharp or a G flat. Okay, next one is a G, that's fine, so 3 and 4 are close. Gap for 5, that's an A. Gap for 6, that's a B. And then gap for 7, so we can't play a C, we have to skip 1, so we've landed up on another black note. But we know that there's a C already above 7, so we have to name this note here, we have to name it a C sharp. It cannot be a D flat, because the D is already in the scale, okay? So So while that note can have two names, in this scale it's a C sharp, and we know it because we've already put the letters in. And then we have a D. So there we go. So we've got our scale. We have two black notes. We've got our F sharp, and then we've got our C sharp here. Okay, so then we need to write them into our key signature onto our stave. So we know that this is G. We can count up line, space, line, space. So G is a line, A, B, C, D, E, F. And we draw our hashtag sign with the centre of it going, with the line going through the centre of it. And we wanted a C sharp as well. So G, A, B, C. And this time the centre of the hashtag goes through the space. And we always do it in the order that they come. So G major has one sharp, it's F sharp. So we add the F. Then D major has two sharps, C sharp, we add the C. We don't put C then F, it always goes F, C. Yeah, and then as they build up F, C, G, but we always start with the F. Okay, F is easy to find in the bass clef because it's the F clef. So again, the hashtag goes either side. We need to find the C. We don't hover it up here floating in no man's land where the ledger lines would be. So we count down F, and that's why I've written this up here. It's much easier to count if you've got something to look at. So if you struggle going backwards and forwards in the alphabet, writing something down just at the bottom of a notepad is always helpful. So F, and then we go E, D, C. So C is this gap here, and we put the sharp with the centre of it going through there. Treble, viola clef C, D, E, F. F is in that space there. And then C is easy to find because it's on that line, and we make sure. There we go. So we've written D major, key signatures. So now we need to find the tonic triad. We know the tonic triad is number 1, degree number 1. That's our lovely home tonic where we like to be. And then we have number 3 and number 5. It's the first 3 notes of your major arpeggio. It's your tonic triad. 3, triad, tonic, starts on the first note here. So we have 1, 3 and 5. So that would be D, F sharp and A. So let's draw that onto our clef. So we have D, F sharp and A and A. And then if we put it into the viola clef, these are exactly the same pitch of notes. D, F sharp, oops, and A. And then cellos, we can do yours on your open strings as well. Let's do that below. We have D, F sharp, and A. So the nice thing with this is that it's one of the most comfortable keys for us to play in because it uses our open strings, and it's sort of one of the first finger patterns that we use. So violins, we're going to have an open D, a high 2 on the D string, F sharp, and then open A. Violas are exactly the same, but you're using your top 2 strings, D, so high 2, F sharp, and A. And cellos, you're going to be using your D string, but you use 3 fingers to play your F sharp, so D, F sharp, and then open A. Okay. So we're going to have a go at doing these rhythms. Remember what we were saying about subdividing. So when you're doing the tum, ti, think 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So you've got to be thinking in quavers in your head. Ticka, 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 to sort of keep that ticking over. And so yeah, just simply we're going to use these 3 notes in our improvisations. I'm going to start with the rhythm and pattern from the start moving down. You can do any combination you'd like to, and I will see you at the end. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then T, 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 and then off we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, T, 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 off we go. So now let's see if we can find some other tonic triads on our instruments. So cellos. Okay, so this will be more advanced for the cellos. So you can have, so you've got a C string, so your D is going to be here. It's going to be first finger on the C string. Okay, and then to get the F sharp, you're going to have to stretch out your fourth finger. D. Yeah. For that one. Oh, hang on. I haven't drawn that very well. Come on, let's get our ledger lines properly. So I need to look at that gap there and copy the same gap. And then D, F sharp, A, D, F sharp, A. So if you haven't learnt to sort of extend your fourth finger into that F sharp pattern, then just use the first finger. So first finger and on the C string and first finger on the G string, so the D and the A, and then this is a sort of extended fourth finger. So if you haven't learnt that on the cello, don't stretch it or try and force it or anything, but if you have learnt that finger pattern, then it'd be worth practicing that tonic triad now. Violas, you can do the same, and it's a sort of similar idea in that your F sharp, this F sharp here is going to be, get that ledger line the right distance, there we go. So we've got D, which is the first finger on the C string, F sharp, which is a high 3. So again, if you haven't learnt extended third fingers, so first finger, high 3, first finger. But you probably can, well, you definitely can do your first finger on the C string and first finger on the G string to get the D and the A. So you can play around with those two notes if that's what you'd like to do. And, oh, hang on, obvious mistake. I should have done that in red because it's the same pitch as that bit of the cello, because you can see it comes across. So apologies for that. Probably been doing this for a bit too long today. But yeah, so you get that idea. And then here, violins, you've got another one at the top. Go on, I'll use a different colour for that. And we're going to have D, F sharp, and A. So this goes on to our E string. We have third finger on the A string, first finger on the E string, and third finger on the A string. That's quite an easy one for the violins to do. So violins, have a go at that option. Viola players, you can have a go with those low first fingers, and if you've learnt the high 3s, you go for that. And cellos, again, use your first fingers, but if you've learnt that sort of stretched fourth finger, then you can have a go with that. So we're going to do exactly the same, but we're going to noodle around with our top or bottom octaves this time. All right, so I'm going to go into my top octave because I'm on the violin team, but and you can use my notes to sort of help you pitch if you're trying to do your sort of extended notes. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 beats in and then T T T T, off we go. And the idea of the T T T T is to give you a feeling of quaver, 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 so that these go 1 and 2 and 1, so it's just easier to count your dotted crotchets. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, T T T, off we go. And last one we're going to do, you can noodle around with all 6 or 5 notes depending on whether you're using these extra notes in the violas and the cellos. So you're basically playing around with a sort of D major arpeggio pattern. Don't think about it too much and try and plan it, just sort of go with the flow. So use a different rhythm combination to me. I'm going through it in this order. You can work backwards, you can do whatever order you like, and I will see you at the end. Okay, so counting in 1, 2, 3, 4, T T T T's, and then off we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, T T T T, off we go. So I hope that all made sense in terms of relating this to your grade 1 theory, if that's what you're doing. It's these sort of middle triads, the sort of the some of the easier ones to play on our instrument that you're sort of, and drawing these treble clefs and bass clefs and how they fit in with the scale pattern that you're trying to log. But what I'm trying to show you is that you can, by understanding that, then you can put it onto your instrument, and then that really helps you sort of with doing improvisation. If somebody says, let's just do something in D major, go, then you've got the tools to be able to join in with that without having to sort of work it out really quickly and go back to basics. So theory is cool, it's very useful, keep going with it. And always take it away and put it onto your instrument, even if piano isn't your first instrument. It's really important to translate it into something that is useful for you, and that's why we do it. Okay, take care.